She stood at the kitchen island, still in her blazer, dropping her laptop bag like it weighed a ton. I told her, "Sarah, we need to talk. There's a wall between us." She didn't look up. She twisted the faucet off with 2 fingers, reached for a towel, and answered like she was reading a grocery list. "Can this wait? I'm wiped." "It's been waiting for 2 months," I replied. "You sleep facing the edge of the bed. You leave before I wake up. You touch your phone more than you touch me." She flicked a glance over my shoulder. "Drama is not attractive, Ryan." "I'm not selling tickets," I said. "I'm asking where my wife went." She smirked without smiling. "Maybe try flowers or plan something. Something not about you. I planned dinner last week. You canceled twice. Client deadlines, real life." "It's our life," I said. She turned, folded the towel, set it down too neatly. "I'm taking a shower." She walked past me like I was an end table. The bathroom door shut. Steam started fogging the mirror over the sink. My face looked like a guy who'd kept calm for too long. After 15 years in insurance claims, I'd seen enough structural damage to recognize when something was beyond repair. I wanted to believe it was a phase, a bad quarter, something fixable with a weekend away. If I'd known where it was headed, I would have saved my breath and my receipts. I put the kettle on and stared at the 4 magnets on the fridge. 1 from Lake George, 1 from Sedona, 2 from little towns we'd wandered through before life became a calendar invite. I texted her, even though she was 10 feet away. "I booked Friday at Rocco's, 7 p.m., just us." The bubbles hissed. She didn't respond. The first reply came the next morning from her work phone. "Friday doesn't work, push to Monday." I wrote Monday then, not optional. 3 dots showed up, then nothing. I didn't nag. I did what I do best. I made a decision with a deadline. Monday, I'd put it on the table again. If she stonewalled, I'd change the rules. When Monday came, she walked into the kitchen, adjusting her fitness tracker, eyes on her screen. "Can we do takeout?" she asked. "I'm buried." "Sit," I told her. 10 minutes, then I'll carry this week any way you need." She pulled a stool back. "Make it 5. "Okay," I said. 5 it is." "Start," she said, tugging her sleeve. "We're not okay." "Define okay." "You've stopped reaching for me. You speak to me like a coworker you don't like. If something's wrong, tell me. If you're checked out, say that too." Her phone lit up. She flipped it face down. "You always jump to extremes." I leaned on the island. "I'm too old for games." "You're also too serious for a Tuesday," she shot back. "This mood, it's suffocating." "Then open a window," I said. "I booked us a cabin by the lake next month. 3 days, no laptops." She laughed quick and joyless. "You booked something without asking me. I'm your husband, not your pen pal." "Cancel it," she said. "I have a conference that weekend." "You sure you want to make that your answer?" I asked. She pushed from the stool. "Make your own plans, Ryan." "I just did," I said, and let her walk out. I booked a solo day on Saturday at my friend Danny's auto shop to help him finish a Camaro restoration. If she wanted distance, I could measure it in miles and oil stains. A woman who refuses a lake trip for a conference just told me where she ranks us. I heard it loud and clear. The week rolled forward with her little signals. She'd come home at 9 with a breezy, "Don't wait up tomorrow." She'd set her phone face down. She started locking it. On the 3rd Thursday, she returned in a new dress I didn't recognize, smelling like a perfume she never wore at home. "Nice dress," I said. She spun her car key on a finger. "Perks of working late." "Looks expensive," I observed. She shrugged. "Managed." "The store call you at work and tell you to pick it up in a booth somewhere?" She threw me a look. "You hear yourself?" "Every day," I said, "and I'm done auditioning for my own marriage." She ignored that. I watched her toss the dress on a chair, peel an orange, and leave the peels on the counter for me to deal with. The disrespect wasn't loud. It was efficient. Saturday, I moved a few of my tools out of the garage and into my truck. New habit, new rule. My stuff, my schedule. She didn't ask why. She didn't ask anything. Monday morning, she put a calendar invite on my phone. "Dinner with clients 7 p.m. I replied with my own boundary. "Talk 6:30 p.m. When I got home early and set plates, she came in laughing into her phone and saw the table. "What is this?" she asked. "Us," I answered. 30 minutes. She lowered her voice into the mic. "I'll call you back." Phone down, arms crossed. "Quickly." "I'm not your backup plan," I said. You don't book me around clients. I don't accept being spoken to like a chore. I'm done volunteering for cold silence. If we're partners, act like it. If we're roommates, say so. Ryan, you're being extreme again. That line's expired, I told her. New rules. I'm not moving towards someone who moves away. I'll stop initiating. I'm compartmentalizing money. I'll cook for myself. I'll respect your distance. And we keep it polite in public. If you want warmth, you reach. Wow, she said. You rehearsed that. I wrote it in my head while replacing brake pads. She dropped into a chair. So you're punishing me with independence. I'm protecting my time and self-respect, I replied. You treat me like an option. You get the version of me who treats you like a neighbor. Her eyes flicked to the clock. I'm late. Good, I said. Then you can be late somewhere else. She grabbed her purse. At the door, she threw, You're acting insecure. I picked up my wallet. No, I'm acting finished. She left. I turned off half the lights. I slept well for the first time in weeks. 2 days later, she came home early with a paper box from the bakery. She set it down. I got your favorite, she said. Chocolate mousse. That's thoughtful, I said, not moving from the stool where I was sorting receipts. She cleared her throat. I've been stressed. I don't mean to take it out on you. Noted. I can try Friday night, she offered. No phone. Appreciated, I said, and sliced the cake. I ate a forkful. It tasted like a peace offering, wrapped around a calculation. I let it sit. She tried small talk. I gave her simple answers. She leaned in once, hand on my forearm, then pulled back when I didn't chase it. That was her first soft pivot, just enough sweetness to see if the faucet still worked. Friday night didn't happen. At 5, a text. Emergency at the office, rain check. I answered with a thumbs up and booked a table for one at a steakhouse off the highway. At the bar, I watched a minor league game on the TV. A guy next to me, Cole, HVC tech I'd met through Danny, saw me, clinked a bottle. You solo? He asked. Easiest date I've had in months, I replied. He looked at my ring finger. You good? I'm decisive, I said. He nodded like he knew that language. We talked cars and work. I didn't chase her. I didn't text, where are you? I paid my bill and drove home with the radio low. Her car wasn't in the driveway. Inside, the house smelled faintly like citrus and a stranger's cologne. The neighbor's porch light clicked on. Mrs. Ruth Parker from across the street waved. She had the kind of eyes that notice everything and comment on nothing. We crossed paths at breakfast the next morning. She looked bright. New blowout. Weekend bag by the door. You going somewhere? I asked. Corporate conference, she said quickly. Austin, big client presentation. Which client? I asked. She made a face. Since when do you track my work calendar? Take the new dress, I said, and poured coffee. It likes business meetings. She grabbed the bag, tossed "Don't wait up," as if it was still a joke. I didn't. I put my mug in the sink, took out my phone, and opened a contact I never thought I'd use. A private investigator and former client once mentioned when his company needed asset verification on a suspicious claim. The guy's name was Grant Webb, former military, now spends his days proving or disproving the stories people tell themselves. I sent him a short message. Need professional surveillance on my wife's business trips. Discretion essential. Corporate rates apply. $20,500 for comprehensive week-long documentation. He called back in an hour. You want timestamps and locations? He said. I want the truth, I answered. No assumptions, no editorializing, pure documentation. If she's conducting legitimate business, you'll invoice me for proving my paranoia wrong. If she's not, you'll provide evidence comprehensive enough for legal proceedings. Understood, he said. 7 days, full documentation package. You'll have answers. For a week, I did not. Change my routine. I woke up at 5 Olsen. I went to the office. I processed commercial property claims, met with adjusters, documented flood damage and fire loss with the same methodical precision that made me successful in my field. The guys, Luis, whose jokes come with a wink, Danny, who keeps mental spreadsheets on every carburetor he's rebuilt, noticed I was quieter, more focused. You okay, boss? Luis asked, calibrating moisture detection equipment. I'm processing, I said. Like a claim? Danny asked, looking up from an engine block. Exactly like a claim. They exchanged a look but didn't push. After 15 years adjusting other people's disasters, they understood that some investigations require patience. Evenings I went to Danny's shop, put in 2 hours on the Camaro, cleaned tools like I was performing a ritual. The repetitive precision of mechanical work had always been my meditation. Sarah's texts were becoming formulaic. Conference running late. Don't wait. Client dinner. Home tomorrow. I gave her thumbs-ups and single-word acknowledgments. At the office, Claire from the legal department stopped by my desk. "You look like you've been sleeping better," she said, reviewing contract language for a large commercial claim. "I upgraded my sleep hygiene," I replied. "Interesting phrase choice," she said with a slight smile. "Very clinical." "I'm a clinical person," I answered. She was attractive in the way that intelligent women often are. Sharp, direct, no games. Different from what I was dealing with at home. On day 6, Grant sent me a message. No words, just attachments. Photo 1, Sarah at a corner table in a restaurant I recognized, leaning into a man with barbershop fresh hair and a watch he wanted people to see. His hand was on hers. Photo 2, them walking into an apartment building where the doorman held the door without being asked. Photo 3, my driveway, late afternoon Thursday. The same man's silver BMW in my spot, while my truck was documented at the office parking garage 3 miles away. Time-stamped precision. No captions needed. Grant didn't editorialize. He didn't have to. The next day, a comprehensive folder landed in my inbox. Times, locations, routes, vehicle registrations, even credit card transaction records from restaurants and hotels. I scrolled once through the executive summary. That was enough. The respect died quiet. I didn't cry, didn't pace, didn't throw anything. I sat at the kitchen table, hands flat on the surface, and did what you do when a structure fails inspection. You tag it condemned, you budget the demolition, you salvage what's worth salvaging, and you schedule the debris removal. This was just another claim to process, except this time I was both the adjuster and the policyholder. I called my buddy Walt, who runs payroll and benefits for our regional office. Hypothetical, I said. If a man wanted to untangle joint financial accounts quickly and cleanly, what's the most efficient sequence? Walt's voice dropped to business mode. "You filing? I'm planning." "Then listen carefully," he said. "House is in both names?" "Correct." "Refinancing out of the question?" "Unnecessary. I'm executing a clean exit strategy." "Then establish separate operating budgets immediately. No drama, no accusations, just financial reorganization. Set up individual checking for your direct deposit. Stop covering discretionary expenses that aren't yours. Document everything. Be factual in your communications, not emotional. You know the drill from insurance work. Evidence, documentation, clear paper trail. "Copy that," I said. I spent that afternoon creating what I called the Financial Separation Memorandum. Shared household expenses would continue to be paid from our joint account. Mortgage, utilities, property taxes. Everything else became individual responsibility. Groceries, personal spending, entertainment, clothing, all separate. I attached a color-coded spreadsheet showing the new structure. No accusations, no emotional language, just numbers and logistics like any other claim adjustment. I CC'd both our email addresses and printed a hard copy for the kitchen counter. When she walked in that evening and saw the paper, her face went through a quick sequence. Confusion, irritation, then something sharper. "What's this?" she asked, picking up the document. "Financial restructuring," I said, keeping my tone neutral. "You wanted independence. This formalizes it." Her jaw tilted slightly. "This feels controlling." "This is accounting," I replied. "Independence comes with individual responsibility. You handle your expenses, I handle mine. It's actually more freedom for both of us." She crossed her arms. "So, you're punishing me because I have a demanding career?" I took a measured sip of water. "I'm correcting a structural imbalance." If she noticed the file folders open on my laptop behind me, the ones labeled asset documentation, legal consultation notes, and storage solutions, she didn't comment. Maybe she saw them and assumed I was bluffing. People have a remarkable capacity to see only what confirms their preferred reality. 2 days later, she initiated her second soft pivot. She found me in the garage, labeling boxes with a black marker while organizing tools I'd accumulated over the years. I've been thinking, she started, using the tone she probably used in marketing presentations. Maybe we should take that lake weekend you mentioned. I can reschedule the Austin follow-up meeting. I kept the marker moving across the cardboard. I hate all this tension, she continued. I miss when things were easy between us. Easy is earned, I told her, not looking up from my labeling. Also, I've committed that weekend to helping Danny with a complete engine rebuild. We're pulling the Camaro's motor Saturday morning. So you'd rather spend your weekend with a car than work on our marriage? She pressed, stepping closer into my workspace. I set the marker down and finally looked at her. I'd rather spend my weekend with mutual respect. When you're ready to offer that consistently, we can discuss rescheduling. She exhaled slowly, reached for my arm, and let her hand rest there. Ryan, can we just reset, start over? I met her eyes. There was a wet shine in them that might have looked like sincerity if you didn't have time-stamped photographs, showing where she'd been spending her evenings. We can maintain civility, I said. That's the reset I'm prepared to offer. She lifted her hand slowly, like she was testing the weight of my words. She left the garage without another word. 30 minutes later, my phone buzzed with a text. Staying at Angela's tonight. I need some space to think. Angela was her coworker, who treated marriage like a project requiring constant renovation. I smiled at the concrete wall. Grant had included photos of Angela's building in his surveillance package. The address in her text message didn't match. I bookmarked an appointment with a divorce mediator for the following Tuesday morning. Not for drama or confrontation, just process. I also rented a 10L10 storage unit in an industrial complex near the highway for $125 per month and bought professional packing supplies. I told no one, except Cole and Danny. Men who've lived through enough understand when to talk and when to simply carry boxes. That afternoon at the office, Luis noticed me humming while reviewing a complex commercial fire claim. "Boss, you're humming," he said, looking up from his damage assessment photos. "You never hum." "Engine rebuild weekend," I said. "You good though, right?" he pressed, genuinely concerned. "I'm clear," I answered. "That's better than good." He bumped my shoulder with his elbow. "If you need extra hands for any kind of moving project, you know you've got a crew." "Saturday morning," I said. "Bring work gloves." By the time Friday arrived, the decision had evolved beyond being a decision. It had become logistics. The private investigation file sat in my home office, organized in clear plastic sleeves. Divorce consultation notes, asset inventory, financial separation documentation, everything labeled and indexed like any major insurance claim. I scheduled document delivery through a legal service for the following Friday morning. No spectacle, no surprise ambush. Just professional documentation arriving at the appropriate time. We drifted through that week like polite neighbors. Please and thank you. Careful movement around each other in the kitchen. Bedroom doors closed at night. She had grown bolder in the quiet, which told me she'd misread my silence as resignation rather than preparation. That suited my purposes perfectly. I pulled cash for incidental expenses. I booked a Saturday tea time at the municipal course. I called Cole and told him to keep the weekend open for the Camaro project. He whooped with enthusiasm. "We'll get that beast purring like new," he said. "No speeches, just wrenches." Saturday morning arrived with clockwork precision. Sarah stood by the kitchen island with a wheeled suitcase, checking her phone. "I'm going to Florida with the girls for my birthday," she announced, like she was reading from a script she'd practiced. 5 days in Key Largo. Don't text unless it's a genuine emergency. "Do Angela and the others know you're coming?" I asked, opening the refrigerator for orange juice. She blinked twice. "Why would you phrase it like that?" "Like a question," I said, pouring juice into a glass. "Have fun. If you're planning to sulk while I'm gone, at least do it quietly," she said, adjusting the handle on her luggage. "This trip has been planned for weeks. The resort bookings, the flights, everything's confirmed." "Of course it has," I said. "You're very thorough with your planning." She tilted her head, studying my expression. "You don't get to be passive-aggressive because I'm not sitting home on my birthday like some housewife from 1952. I gestured toward her suitcase with my juice glass. "Don't miss your departure time." She compressed her lips into a thin line and rolled the bag toward the door, chin up, shoulders back, the posture of someone who believed she held all the cards. At the threshold, she paused for what I now recognize was her final performance. "You know what, Ryan? If you don't like how I'm living my life, you can file for divorce, she said, projecting her voice like she wanted Mrs. Parker across the street to hear every word. A dare wrapped in an ultimatum, pitched across our front yard like a challenge flag. I took a slow, deliberate sip of juice, letting the moment breathe. Noted, I said. She left in a cloud of self-satisfaction so thick you could package it and sell it as confidence. I waited exactly 5 minutes, watching through the window until her car disappeared around the corner. Then, I retrieved my phone and sent a single text to the group thread I'd created. Project Camaro is go. Cole pulled up first with his trailer and a grin that could power the neighborhood. Luis arrived with coffee and a toolbox that looked like it belonged in a museum. Claire and her husband showed up with a dozen professional moving boxes, the kind with reinforced corners and built-in handles. They'd navigated their own relationship crisis the previous year and understood the protocol without requiring explanation. We worked like a precision crew. Danny directed the automotive operation while the rest of us handled domestic logistics. We cleared her closet systematically, folding everything into labeled suitcases. Sarah, bedroom, Sarah, bathroom, Sarah, office. I took nothing that belonged to her, nothing that existed in any gray area of ownership. We operated like professional movers, efficient and respectful. By noon, the storage unit hummed with the sound of seal, zippers, and cardboard. I changed the garage door code to a new sequence. I contacted the credit card company to close our joint account and transferred my direct deposit to my individual checking. I left the shared utilities unchanged. Humanity matters even when respect has departed. Cole leaned against his truck bed, wiping sweat from his forehead. "You holding up okay?" he asked. "I'm not celebrating," I said. "I'm adjusting to new circumstances." He pointed 2 fingers at me, like an informal salute. "That's exactly why you're going to be fine." We grilled that evening at Danny's place. Nothing dramatic or ceremonial. Burgers, cold beer, music that nobody felt compelled to discuss or analyze. The Camaro sat in the bay with fresh hoses and a rebuilt carburetor, chrome gleaming under the shop lights. I wasn't trying to project strength or make statements about masculine resilience. I was doing what emotionally healthy people do, acting as if my decisions had already been implemented, because they had. Her week away became my week of systematic preparation. Divorce paperwork finalized with my signature and ready for legal service. The process server confirmed delivery scheduled for Friday morning at 9:00 a.m. I booked professional house cleaning for Thursday evening. I had the side door locks rekeyed, not to exclude her from the property, but to symbolically clarify for myself that we were no longer operating as a team. She maintained her social media presence from Florida, posting photos of poolside cocktails and sunset dinners with captions about self-care and personal growth. People I didn't recognize added heart emojis and supportive comments. I didn't engage with any of it. I went golfing with Cole and Danny instead. They were terrible at golf and loud about their failures, which made me laugh harder than I had in months. Thursday night, I sat on my couch and watched a documentary about industrial accidents with the volume at normal levels. The house felt substantial again, solid and predictable, like a structure that had been properly inspected and cleared for safe occupancy. I slept 8 hours without interruption. Friday morning arrived with the efficiency of a scheduled appointment. The legal service texted confirmation at 8:45 a.m. Documents delivered as requested. I replied with a simple, "Acknowledged." I arranged the complete investigation folder on the kitchen table and clipped a handwritten note to the first page. "Please review all materials and sign where indicated. Your belongings are packed and stored in the master bedroom. Storage unit key and address are on the kitchen counter. I'll be at Danny's shop this afternoon if you need to return the house key." I didn't stage the scene for maximum drama. I didn't arrange the surveillance photographs like an art exhibition designed to inflict pain. I simply placed the evidence chronologically under the legal documents. She could examine it thoroughly or ignore it completely. The point wasn't theatrical impact. It was the professional conclusion of a thorough investigation. By late afternoon, I was lying on my couch, reading a technical manual about commercial fire damage assessment. My phone rested face down on the coffee table, not because I had secrets to hide, but because I'd grown to appreciate extended periods of silence. The garage door motor engaged. Front door opened with the familiar sound of someone returning from travel. High heels clicked against hardwood in a rhythm that announced confidence and expectation. She rolled into the living room, still wearing travel clothes, skin touched by Florida sun I hadn't seen, dragging that wheeled suitcase like evidence of a successful mission. "Hello there," she said with an artificially wide smile and voice pitched too loud for the space. "Your wife has returned from her rejuvenating vacation. Planning to act excited, or are we maintaining the sulking routine?" I used the remote to lower the television volume and allowed half a beat of silence to settle between us. "Why did you come back?" I asked in a flat, conversational tone. "Did the airport run out of room for permanent residents?" She stopped moving. The manufactured smile faltered, then disappeared entirely. "Excuse me?" "Oh, right," I said, as if remembering something obvious. "I forgot about your scheduling conflict. The legal papers are organized on the kitchen table. Your belongings are packed and ready in the master bedroom. You can handle your transition at whatever pace feels comfortable." That statement hit her like emergency lighting, cutting through darkness. She stood perfectly still for several seconds, then moved deliberately toward the kitchen. She lifted the first page of documentation, and I watched her eyes track across lines of text, with the focused intensity of someone translating a foreign language. She turned to the next page, then the photographs. I observed her posture transform, as if someone had systematically removed structural support elements. Pride dissolved first, followed by the practiced smirk she'd been wearing like armor. Finally, the artificial confidence evaporated completely. She looked at me with an expression I'd never seen before. No words emerged. She looked back down at the evidence, then back at me. She didn't attempt explanations or creative interpretations of what she was seeing. She didn't launch into prepared speeches about misunderstanding or context, or the complexity of modern relationships. She understood everything with perfect clarity. She comprehended the timeline, the week she'd spent believing I was home, feeling sorry for myself. The methodical man who had stopped asking questions because he'd started documenting answers instead. She set the papers down with exaggerated care, as if they might detonate. "Your suitcase is in the bedroom," I repeated, maintaining the same conversational tone I'd used to discuss weather patterns. "Storage unit key and address are on the counter. Don't forget them." She swallowed once, visibly. I don't derive satisfaction from watching people diminish, even when they have earned the experience, but I respected the moment by refusing to fill it with unnecessary commentary. She walked down the hallway toward our former bedroom. I heard zippers opening, drawers sliding, the sound of someone gathering possessions they never expected to need to carry alone. I didn't get up from the couch. She made 3 separate trips between the bedroom and her car, maintaining complete silence each time she passed through the living room. On her final trip, she retrieved the storage unit key from the counter, paused at the front door threshold like someone contemplating cold water, then stepped outside. The house settled into stillness behind her. I exhaled once because breath belongs to whoever chooses to remain. I didn't send triumphant text messages to anyone. I didn't open champagne or make toasts to freedom. I simply restored the television volume to its previous level and watched the final inning of a baseball game between teams I didn't particularly care about. When it ended, I stood up, collected the legal documents from the kitchen table, organized them in a filing folder, and placed the folder in my home office drawer. 2 days later, Cole arrived at my house with a comprehensive toolbox and his usual enthusiasm. "Ready for those garage organization shelves?" he asked. "Absolutely ready," I said. We installed clean, professional-grade shelving along the back wall. I arranged my tools according to function and frequency of use, not because I'd become obsessed with control, but because systematic organization functions as effective anxiety management. My phone buzzed once that afternoon with a call from Sarah's number. I allowed it to ring through to voicemail without listening to the message. She didn't attempt to contact me again. She didn't appear at the house unexpectedly. People often believe that dramatic speeches can retroactively modify established facts. They cannot. A week later, I purchased a well-maintained Ford F-150 from a man relocating to Portland. The transaction required exactly 1 hour. Inspection, paperwork, payment, handshake, no financing complications, no extended warranty presentations, no dealer add-ons designed to inflate profit margins. I drove directly to the hardware store, purchased materials for a bathroom renovation project, and returned home as if I'd been managing solitary domestic logistics for years. Claire invited me to a Saturday cookout with her social circle. Adults engage in normal conversation about mortgage refinancing and teenagers who consistently leave lights on throughout empty houses. A woman named Beth, who worked as a nurse practitioner, laughed genuinely at my description of the Camaro's temperamental electrical system. She possessed surgeon-precise hands and understated humor that made interaction feel natural rather than performative. We exchanged contact information without ceremony or artificial promises. No elaborate courtship strategies, just the normal beginning of adult acquaintance. Work performance improved measurably. We completed a major commercial flood claim ahead of schedule. The client, a retired high school principal, shook my hand with obvious sincerity. "Your team consistently meets deadlines," he said. "That's increasingly rare. We show up for ourselves first," I told him. "Then we show up for the work." A month passed. The divorce paperwork returned with Sarah's signature, processed like any other administrative transaction that had reached its logical conclusion. My attorney handled the filing and legal logistics efficiently. No courtroom drama, no contested hearings, no media attention. The mediator sent a brief email. All issues resolved satisfactorily. I marked it as archived. I heard about Sarah exactly once, through neighborhood intelligence networks. Mrs. Parker mentioned during casual conversation that she'd moved to a downtown apartment with a short-term lease and seemed to travel frequently. Translation: the lifestyle she'd chosen prioritized flexibility over stability. I felt neither satisfaction nor sympathy. I felt complete. On a Saturday morning, Beth and I drove to a trail system along the river. We carried coffee in an insulated thermos and moved through comfortable silence that indicated compatibility rather than tension. At the scenic overlook, she observed, "You're a remarkably calm person." It sounded like both compliment and personal assessment. "I'm a person who appreciates clearly defined boundaries," I replied. "Then establish them clearly for me," she said with a slight smile. "I don't pursue," I told her directly. "I respond proportionally to what I receive." "I can work within those parameters," she answered. We walked back down the trail without artificial urgency. When I dropped her off at her apartment, she touched my arm briefly, not as a test or manipulation, but as a simple human gesture of connection. I nodded acknowledgement. It felt like a completely normal day because it was exactly that. At home, I moved the Camaro from the garage into afternoon sunlight. Danny arrived with new spark plugs and his usual technical expertise. Cole appeared with a cooler full of beer and a baseball cap that had seen better decades. We fine-tuned the idle speed and checked belt tension while maintaining easy conversation about practical matters. Nobody delivered speeches about personal transformation or masculine resilience. We simply kept our hands busy and our words straightforward. Mrs. Parker waved from her front porch. "Engine sounds well-tuned," she called across the street. "It's properly balanced now," I replied. "Like its owner," she answered, returning to her book. For the first time in months, the house felt like personal. Territory rather than a waiting room. There exists a fundamental difference between leaving a situation and being abandoned by circumstances. I will choose the former every time. In the end, the loudest action I took was closing a door with appropriate finality. And the last words I spoke to her were the most honest ones I possessed. "Why did you come back?" Everything that followed was simply logistics. Friends who understood when to offer assistance. A truck that started reliably. A woman who communicated honestly. A job that rewarded consistent performance. And silence that represented peace rather than punishment. That's not a miracle or exceptional circumstance. That's a man declining to remain an option when he deserves to be a priority. That's me.